Let's begin this morning, though, with the unfolding situation in Ukraine. A Texas congressman was there just weeks ago, visiting with a bipartisan delegation. This morning, he's telling Texans to keep an eye on this situation because it is likely to have direct effects on your wallet. That congressman is Colin Allred, a Dallas Democrat and member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, welcome back to the program. I want to start with Ukraine being, 6,000 miles away from your district in Dallas. It's not a place that many are familiar with. Why should Texans be concerned about this, be watching the situation?
Well, it's a really good question. And I know some folks are wondering, why is the U.S. spending so much energy on Ukraine? Why are we spending so much time talking about it? And it's because, it's a democracy. It's a fledgling democracy that is trying to set its own path. And they've chosen that they want to become more Western, both working with the EU in terms of economic ties, but also that they want to seek NATO membership and that they want to leave kind of Russia's orbit. And this will be the first time, if Russia does invade, that we've seen a large-scale invasion of a democratic country by an autocratic one since World War II.
Congressman, if this becomes dragged out, long armed conflict here, do you expect that Democrats and Republicans in Congress will actually unite against this?
I really do. I really do. And, I was part of a bipartisan delegation to Ukraine, and we were very united on that trip. And even though there's been some back and forth in the Senate, in particular recently around sanctions and when they should be applied and things like that, I think we're going to be united. I don't think this is going to be a partisan issue in terms of our response to Russia. And I think that's really important that it not be, because the Russians need to see a united front from the United States with our allies in Europe and with our NATO allies to show that whatever they do, they're going to pay a severe cost.
I want to talk about sanctions as well, too. That's the thing that President Biden keeps talking about, that he's going to unleash sanctions like Russia has never seen before. Yeah. You mentioned that sanctions on Russia could also have an impact here in Texas. How so?
Well, I really think the Texans should be prepared that part of us standing up to Russia is going to have to be that we hit them where it hurts. And where it hurts is on the energy market and some of their raw materials. And so we may see higher energy costs come out of this, and we may see some of our supply chains either interrupted or parts of it becoming more expensive because we're trying to hit those parts of the Russian economy. But this is, I think, part of our patriotic duty to understand that it may be that we're asked to pay a little more to protect democracy around the world.
How long would that happen, though? If this goes into armed, conflict that drags out for months, I mean, could we expect to have this for months, years, or more?
Well, we don't know. I think it's certainly true that if Russia goes ahead with a full-scale invasion, that it would be a long-term commitment, because I think that the Ukrainians would resist. And I think we'd see this devolve into a resistance in which the Ukrainians would be fighting sort of a guerrilla war for their own country, and we would be supporting them in many ways in that. And I think our allies in Europe would be as well.
There are Republicans and Democrats both saying to arm the resistance, arm the Ukrainians so they can fight back themselves, so U.S. troops don't go in. It sounds like a great plan on the surface, but when you look back at history, and I think about this as well, I think of Central America in the 80s when we armed the resistance. I think of Afghanistan in the 80s and early 90s when we armed the resistance. Neither of those really work because both of those situations are the same as they were 40 years ago. Is there really a long-term plan, do you think, to counter this?
Well, we have armed them, and we're going to continue to arm them because Ukraine is a sovereign country and they deserve to have the ability to defend themselves. And this is very different from some of those scenarios. We're not talking about arming, a group or an ideological, faction. We're talking about arming, a sovereign country with its own government, with a democracy, with accountability structures in place, with a military structure in place. And so this is very different.
Congressman, thank you for the context and thank you for the time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jason.